All right, let's talk about something that sounds simple but is actually a huge deal in the pharma world: visual inspection. Now, if you're picturing someone just casually glancing at a piece of equipment, think again. We're talking about a serious, science backed discipline. And trust me, getting this wrong, it can have massive consequences. So, let's dive right in. In this quote, it just nails the reality of the situation. I mean, think about it. One little observation from a regulator can land you with an FDA 483, which is basically a formal write-up of everything they found wrong, or a non-compliance report from the European agencies. Either one of those is a nightmare. We're talking production getting derailed, millions of dollars down the drain. The line between a smooth-running facility and a full-on shutdown, it really can come down to the science of seeing.
So you might be wondering, what's wrong with the old way? Why isn't just looking good enough anymore? Well, it's because regulators like the FDA and the EMA see anything subjective as a huge risk. The game has totally changed. It's not a trust me, it's clean world anymore. It's a prove it with data world. They don't want your opinion. They want cold, hard, scientific proof that your inspection process works, and works the same way every single time.
And really, the difference is night and day. You've got subjective looking on one side, which is just risky, right? It's unreliable, because let's be honest, my idea of clean might be totally different from yours. But on the other side, you have a qualified inspection program, and that's scientific. It's something you can actually defend in an audit. And the most important part, it keeps you compliant.
And to prove this isn't just some vague idea, let's get specific. Regulators will actually mandate things like the lighting in your inspection area. We're talking at least 500 lux. Why so specific? Well, it's all about controlling the variables. If you want a scientific, repeatable result, you have to work under controlled, measurable conditions. And lighting, well, that's one of the most basic, fundamental things you have to get right.
Okay, so how do you actually do this? How do you manage the fact that humans are doing the inspecting and build a program that an auditor will look at and say, yep, that's solid? It all comes down to a really robust 4-step blueprint. This is your gold standard for a qualification program. This is how you prove, with data, that your team can spot what they need to spot every single time. So let's break down this blueprint. Step 1, and this is non-negotiable, is vision testing. You gotta make sure your people can actually see properly. Step 2, you create what's called a test plate. Basically, you're making samples with very specific, known amounts of residue on them. Next up, step 3 is establishing the VLD, or the visual limit of detection. And don't worry, we're going to dig into that in just a moment. And finally, step 4, blind testing. Your inspectors are tested on samples, and they have to get a 100% pass rate on identifying the dirty ones. No exceptions.
And this really lays out the whole strategy perfectly. You can see how each step logically builds on the one before it. You start with the basics. Can the person physically see? And you build all the way up to testing them against a known scientific standard. This kind of logical, documented process, this is exactly what an auditor wants to see. It's defensible. Okay, let's circle back to that really key term from step 3, the visual limit of detection, or VLD. Think of this as your performance benchmark. It's the scientific answer to the question, what's the absolute smallest speck of residue my team can reliably see under our standard conditions? That number, which is typically tiny, like 1 to 5 micrograms per square centimeter, becomes the literal foundation of your whole cleaning validation program. Everything is measured against it.
All right, so we've got our people qualified. They're certified super seers. But that's only half the battle. Now we have to qualify the plan. This is where the real strategy comes into play. Because look, you can't possibly test every single square inch of every piece of equipment. It's just not feasible. So you have to get smart and develop a scientifically defensible worst-case strategy.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If you can't look everywhere, how on earth do you decide where to look? How do you pick the spots that really matter? Because if you get this wrong, if you choose the wrong places to test, your whole cleaning validation program is basically a house of cards. It'll completely fall apart the second an inspector pokes at it.
The answer is to use a strategic selection matrix. It sounds complicated, but it's really about focusing on 4 key areas to find your worst case. First up, product solubility. You go after the gunk that's hardest to clean. Simple as that. Second, potency and toxicity. You have to prioritize the high-risk stuff, like hormones or powerful cancer drugs. Third, you look at the equipment itself, the geometry. You're hunting for all those tricky, hard-to-reach spots like seals, little crevices, or the dead spots behind spray balls. And finally, the surface material. A rougher surface is always going to hold on to residue way more than a perfectly smooth one.
Now, here's a crucial point. It's not enough to just pick these worst-case spots. You have to be able to rigorously defend why you picked them. Especially with the new Annex 1 updates coming out of Europe, the scrutiny is higher than ever. And that brings me to a really important pro tip that'll help you stay aligned with regulators on both sides of the Atlantic.
And listen, if you take away only one thing, let it be this. An auditor is absolutely going to ask you, so why did you choose this piece of equipment as your worst case? And if your answer is anything close to, well, because we've always done it that way, you've already lost. That phrase is like a giant flashing red flag to any regulator. It tells them you're not thinking critically about risk. So what's the right answer? Here it is, a data-driven risk assessment. The gold standard here is a tool called an FMEA. That's a failure mode and effects analysis. All that really means is you have a system, a documented way to score your risks. For cleaning, you'd rank equipment on things like how complex it is, the risk of the product you're making, and how hard it is to clean. What you get at the end is this beautiful, formal document that proves exactly why you chose your worst-case spots. This is the kind of data-backed reasoning that regulators absolutely love to see.
So let's just bring this all home. A rock-solid visual inspection program really rests on two main pillars. Pillar number 1, you qualify your people using that scientific 4-step protocol. Pillar number 2, you defend your worst-case choices with a data-driven risk assessment. If you can get those two things right, I'm telling you, inspections stop being the source of major anxiety and just become a routine check-in, a confirmation of the great system you already have in place.
And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Take a really honest look at your own program. Is it built on guesswork and old habits? Or is it built on defensible, repeatable science? Because in the world we operate in today, only one of those answers is going to let you sleep well at night.